episode of Auth and Talk. I'm Shirley, and I'm in conversation with my husband Sandeep and my sister-in-law Ruth Sneha. And today we're talking about a topic that's very close to our hearts. And I'm still learning about adoption. It's been 2 years into our marriage, Sandeep, and we've talked quite a bit about adoption. We've talked as a family. But I was reading this quote the other day, and I just want to know from your perspective what you think about this. So, never assume because a child was adopted that their life was as wonderful as adoption is painted out to be. Many adoptees are grieving the loss of their birth mother and family. Those feelings don't go away because a child was adopted. A quote like this, how do you take in that quote?
You know, that quote makes me think about my adoption story. You know the beginning parts of my story really well. We've talked in detail about that. I'm looking back at my adoption now, and it is really a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. I've gotten a chance at a new life, new opportunities, coming to a new country, and it has really changed me as a person. And adoption has made me into a different person also, and I thank God for that. But like the quote said, the feelings don't go away. Mm-hmm. And for me, the feelings that keep coming back are the loss that I experienced as a 5-year-old mm-hmm. boy. And that is something that is going to always stick in my mind. The images, the situation that I was put under, the family separation, all of these have effects over the years, mm-hmm. and they still do to this day. Mm-hmm. Some of those things I've learned to forgive and let go of, but it is very painful to go back and rethink about those situations that I was in and how they're affecting me today. And it's been 20 years, right, yeah. from the time we were adopted. So this is a milestone mm-hmm. for now. I'm very grateful, I'm very thankful for what God has done in my life mm-hmm. And how He has changed my heart over the years. An adoption is truly a wonderful thing, and my family has been there, my parents have been there, my siblings have been there to support and encourage me through this journey, but it is a very painful mm-hmm. walk. Now, Sneha, I know Mom and Dad had encouraged you to write about your adoption journey. Do you want to share with us a little bit about what that was like for you?
Yeah, so in December it was 20 years, mm-hmm. and so I was really going through a rough time and grieving the fact that it had been 20 years since I was relinquished. And Mom and Dad had recommended that I write a letter to my birth mom expressing my feelings and kind of letting it go and giving it to God. And I had actually started writing beginning of last year, but it takes so much time and you have so much to process. It's not something you can write overnight.
Sure.
And so I actually have the letter that I started to write to my birth mother, and I will share a little bit.
Please.
It says, "Dear birth mom," this was written last year. 17 years ago was long. It was 17 years longer than I really wanted to wait to know about you and write this letter. I always fantasized about you and what you'd be like. I assumed that I'd gotten my smiling eyes and looks from you, but did I look more like you or like my dad? Was my dad a good person who cared for you and tried to convince you not to leave me, or did he hurt you? Did you truly want me and couldn't care for me, or was I a last-minute afterthought? These many questions raced through my mind as I hit my formative years as a teenager. To a certain extent, I blamed you for the hardship of trying to find my identity. I believed until recently that you are the reason for my suffering. But Mummy, you aren't. You did what you thought was best for me. The journey has been long and the road getting here harder. There are only 2 reasons to why I'm writing this note, which I know that you will never read. First, to tell you that I forgive you. I forgive you for the many sleepless, sobbing nights where I wondered where you were, blaming you for it all. I now know that it is because we are all sinful, fallen people who live in this broken world. I am so sorry for the hate, resentment, and angry words or thoughts that I said when I was wrong. You did what you thought was best for me, and it was the right decision. And ultimately you gave me a chance at life in a country where girls are not given a chance to live just because of their gender. You chose life, Mom, and I will always be grateful. I was adopted into a loving two-parent home with a brilliant, hardworking dad and a mom who fought to save me as a baby and every day since. I have an adopted brother who I wouldn't trade for the world, and a sister who adores me and I her. Jesus ultimately placed me into a home where he resides and is glorified. So thank you. Secondly, I'm writing this to articulate my thoughts because I've been bottling feelings for so long. I needed to handwrite this for you in order to truly grieve through the immense loss of my first mother and in order to embrace my adoptive parents in Jesus. And now I can do that. The only thing I can do for you is pray. Pray that you will find Jesus, the source of all strength and comfort, for only he can forgive you of all of your sins. Please accept him because that is my only hope to see you again in eternity. You left me at 4 months with just half a thumbprint and a name, but now I must leave you to embrace what lies ahead of me, my future with a family who finished the job that you started. I love you, Mom, and I always will because you gave me life, but now I pray that you will find the life. Love, Sneha.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is.
That makes me cry.
Wow.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing that. And by the way, I just wanted to correct something, because I know math is a little hard, but it was 19 years ago. Not 17.
So, just going off from that just incredible piece that you've written, I've seen that there's so much of, from where it started to where it ended, there's so much of like redemption and, there's so much grace the way you write. I just want to know, were there times that you felt that you needed closure in just knowing who she was? Were there times you needed closure and like, I just need to see her one time, or did you even try, or?
There was a period that when we went back to India as a family, I told Mom and Dad, I said, I want to try and at least make an effort to see if, the place where I was adopted from had any information. And the lady there when we went said that there could be information, but it's a closed adoption. There was nothing I could get to protect the safety of the birth mother, to protect her privacy. There's nothing, and I think that really hit me hard because I realized that I was right there. There could have been information there. It's being so close that you can almost touch it, but it's out of your grasp. You can't reach it. And that really sent me just into I think a deep set depression. I was very upset because I couldn't have the information, but it also allowed for me to grieve through the loss, to write this ultimately, and to just process and understand that she did her best. She did what she thought was best, even if it meant that I couldn't meet her. So, but that's all I'm grateful for, is that she chose life.
Chose life.
She
chose
chose
to, give you to a place where they can take care of
exactly.
you. And
God brought me here. So it
so
is a story of
did.
redemption, like you said. Yeah, it is a story of redemption, and now I have a great brother, a great sister-in-law, a great sister, and parents that love me, and grandparents that adore me. So very well loved, which is only God's grace.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
That's right. Sandeep, I know it had been different for you. You came here at 6 years old, and you did have some connection with your family, at least for those 6 years. You knew who your birth mother was, you knew your birth father, and you had siblings. That's very different to Sneha's story. So just give me a little bit of, just a few things that you can tell me about what that meant to you and how it played out.
Yeah, I did know my family. I was connected, so I had 2 older siblings. I had my parents, my birth parents, but when my mother died in that tragic way, I was separated from my family. Like I said, my family was shattered. My alcoholic father left, and like I said earlier, I didn't know where I was going to go. My immediate family, my uncles, the relatives there should have stepped in at that moment, knowing the tragic incident that took place. And unfortunately that didn't happen. And that really caused a separation of my siblings and I. My birth father was out of this picture at that time because he left and I never saw him again. So it should have been up to the relatives at this point to take ownership of the situation, knowing that, hey, there are 3 children out there, young children, that don't have a home. We don't know what's going to happen to them. 1, we need to figure out what we're going to do. And 2 should have been, we need to keep them united as much as possible.
Because there was nobody else to take care of them.
There was nobody else.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. The goal to keep us together was not there. And so the family not looking ahead and seeing that, hey, it's important that these siblings stay together wherever they are, they thought it best to allow me to be separated from my siblings. And they went somewhere, I didn't know at that young age where they went. And I was suddenly being swept away and being adopted by a couple in New Jersey. And so it was very different. It just moved at a very fast pace for me. And I didn't have time to think about my separation. All I knew was that my siblings weren't there anymore. And so that was really difficult. But I'm looking back now, the goal should have been to keep us together. Our family should have been united at that point. And that didn't happen. And that really did cause a lot of damage. I'd say even today, I don't have the sibling relationship to my birth siblings anymore. I haven't been in contact with them for many, many years. I've been here, I've had a different life to the life that they've had over there. And yes, I thank God for the life that He's given me. And Mom and Dad, they love me and taken care of me so well over the years. And my life has been different, but I don't have that sibling connection. Ruth and Sarah are my siblings now. And it is unfortunate, it is sad, and all I can do at this point is just pray for them, treat them as friends, my birth siblings, and I pray that God will help them with their journey.
Do you have anything to say to that?
I think it's heartbreaking that siblings were separated. I think families, when God created the world, I think in a perfect world, families would be united, families would be together, but because of sin, families are separated, choices are made, other people have to step in. And I think that breaks my heart, and I think that breaks the heart of God. But for me, because I didn't have any information or whatnot, when a child is given up for adoption, there absolutely has to be parents who are willing to step up and say, we'll cover that child. They don't have somebody in their corner. They're all alone. There's no information. We will step up and be that safe place, that family, that home. And I think it's only when people do that children can be in forever families, that they can find love and acceptance and know that they belong. And I think it's a big thing to take on the name of a family. I think we both had our names changed to being the Thomases, and with that we get the joy of being a part of the Thomas household. But for the kids that don't get, there's so many millions of children that don't have families to call their own, and I think that's just.
And then actually, sorry, did you have to say something?
I'm just going to piggyback off that and say, I think there's a trend out there that the people who do want to adopt, they want younger babies. They want newborns, they want maybe 1 or 2-year-olds in their family. But I was 5.5 when I was adopted. And so there are many, many older kids out there that are just not even looked at when a couple wants to adopt, because they naturally want newborn or a 1-year-old. And I think, look at my situation. If my adopted parents weren't open to the possibility of having an older child, I wouldn't be here today. And so that kind of thinking and change also has to take place. There are kids at every single age level that need to be adopted, that need to be taken care of. It's not just the newborns, it's not just the infant. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, they have all gone through a different type of trauma, and they need the love and support of a couple or an individual who's willing to take them into their household.
I think what Mom said actually in our previous video was that we can't put a box and expect all of our expectations to fit.
Yeah.
You can't put a box and say, I only want a younger child.
Yeah.
I only want a child who is this age, who looks like this.
Yes.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to allow for, whichever child that needs a home.
Or God places.
And God places
God
into
places,
your
that's
life
right.
Yeah.
to come into your life and to bless your home.
Yeah.
And it may not be the way that you wanted or the way that it was planned, but that's God's plan is ultimately what's good
Right.
over everything. So He's got it.
Right.
He's got it covered.
That's
Yeah.
true. And we can look back in our life and say, through the valleys and the roller coaster of
The
years
ocean
that
depths.
we've
Yeah.
had,
We have
definitely.
definitely.
Adoption has had its impacts in our family, for sure. You've seen 2 years of this with me.
Yes.
But it's been a journey,
It
a
has.
very, very, very long journey, right? For our family. And over the years too, I can think back, and I think this is kind of crucial. We didn't have that connection during that adoption process for family and relatives to be close by and to support us. And I don't think over the years,
Yeah.
I mean, very few people
Have stepped up.
around in our family, but most people at church,
Yeah.
people in our neighborhood, even family members,
Yeah.
they really haven't given the support and love and encouragement and care that probably should have been there over the years.
Yeah.
So I think that's also important as
I
well.
agree.
So, how does your faith connect to your adoption?
It's a good question.
I think it's because we have been adopted physically. It's a representation of how God has adopted us spiritually. We were spiritual orphans. We did not belong to anybody except Satan. But because we asked Jesus to forgive us, and we asked and we repented of our sin, He has forgiven us, and we have now become His daughters and sons. And as the Bible says, co-heirs with Christ.
Yeah. I mean, He died on the cross for our sins.
Exactly.
And so we have the privilege, if we accept Him,
If we accept
to
Him.
join His family. And it's a beautiful representation of
Yeah.
our adoption. That's really what it is. And I look at that, so we've both been adopted twice.
Yes.
But
Twice
that-
adopted.
that's- Twice adopted. That second adoption
Yes.
is far more impactful for us because we know that we're loved. And in that case, everyone has that gift to be adopted into God's family.
Yeah.
And that's really how our faith plays out in our adoption, because when we can look at it in that way, then we can see our adoption has a bigger meaning.
Yeah.
And so our earthly adoption, yes, it's painful, it's hard, and we're looking at it now 20 years after being adopted, and we are thankful and we're
Yeah.
grateful, we really are
Yeah.
grateful
Yeah.
for where God has put us.
And I would also add on to that, I think for adoptees, I think you have to be grateful for your physical adoption in order to understand the adoption that you have if you accept Jesus and are adopted into His family. I think
That's
the
right.
gratitude is what really will come out and be the outpouring of your understanding and your knowledge of being
Yeah.
adopted.
And that's why I absolutely love Galatians 4 and verses 4 to 7. And this is what it says. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth His Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. And that's what just makes me so happy listening to both your stories. And
And that's the beauty of
that's
adoption.
just the beauty
That's
of
just
adoption.
the beauty of adoption.
Yeah.